Can you share how high quality data has catalyzed AI-driven innovation and improved strategic outcomes for startups, especially?
I would like to tell a couple of anecdotes with respect to this. I started in AI in the 1980s. And at that time, we had very ambitious aspirations around what AI could do. There was a company called Hecht Nielsen Corporation, HNC, produced a hardware accelerator that, for the first time, using neural networks, could reliably recognize numbers, handwritten numbers.
Interesting.
And that was the start of applying neural networks in financial applications.
Yes.
But exactly because the available data was of low quality and covered not many fields, the promise of widespread applications of this particular technology and approach couldn't be delivered.
Interesting.
Now, fast forward 30 years or 20 plus years, I think it is incredibly important to acknowledge and to highlight that the current revolution in AI, the exciting and powerful applications of deep learning and other types of neural networks that we are seeing are actually due to the effort of a person where she started from collecting, cleaning, and then providing a new data set for others to use in order to catalyze their efforts. And this person was Fei Li at Stanford University, with very little money, with very scarce resources. For over 2 years, she spent time to collect and clean and make available millions of images labeled accurately, so with high quality, that became the basis of the ImageNet competition at MIT, which in 2012, with AlexNet, for the first time performed at human level and then superhuman level, and really ignited the enthusiasm that we are seeing today. Because even though we are all very much aligned with the objective results of scientific research and their applications, it is also the case that we are human beings and we need to see that our efforts can produce what is needed.
Yeah.
And so that is why these fundamental steps are so powerful. And I think it is important to remember, it is high quality data that started the current wave of AI revolution.
Very, very insightful. In what ways does high quality data accelerate innovation and make businesses more competitive, especially when leveraging AI?
The opportunity for innovation to improve products and services is accelerating thanks to the technologies that we apply to the processes that we use to design and deploy those products and services. And the next step is going to be to think about the business models themselves. How can we increase the speed of change in how companies, startups, enterprises, or even countries collaborate efficiently and sustainably using advanced technologies. And The role of AI in this, I think, is fundamental, especially the latest generations of tools made non-structured data accessible. Generative AI is wonderful in the sense of being able to analyze and help human leadership make decisions in a faster but well-informed manner. Now, the question of data quality becomes important in this dynamic scenario because of the speed of innovation that requires a fine-grained, sure-footed set of controls in the feedback mechanism.
Yeah.
If you are driving a slow vehicle, let's say a horse-drawn carriage, just very slowly moving along your path, if the horse gets distracted and wants to eat something on the side of the road, well, you will have plenty of time to correct.
Yes.
And bring the carriage back to the middle of the road. Nothing happens. But if you are inside a rocket taking off, accelerating with all the engines, and you have cycles of sensor feedback that need to be in a millisecond cycle, then certainly decisions need to be made rapidly and reliably. And if you are not able to do them, maybe because your sensors are faulty and the data that you acquire is of low quality, then it is a guaranteed disaster.
Yeah.
And today, that is what we are seeing in a lot of scenarios where not only innovation is very fast, but the speed of innovation itself is increasing. We are all familiar with Moore's law, that for over 50 years dictated in a kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy through the common effort of thousands of engineers all over the world, that yes, the next smartphone or computer that you would buy will have more power, and approximately doubling power every couple of years. Statistically speaking, this has been true for 50 years, an amazing development. However, recently we have started to take advantage of a new type of innovation, where rather than the doubling rate being constant, it is itself shrinking, and the rate of innovation is increasing. I call this the paradigm of jolting technologies. And if you go and watch almost any presentation by Jensen Huang, the CEO of NVIDIA, he will show charts that on a logarithmic scale show an exponential curve. It is the representation, a graphical representation of a double exponential, of an increasing rate of innovation, of a shortening cycle of doubling power. And if they were merely following Moore's law, they would have increased the power of their AI systems in particular over 10 years, less than 1,000-fold, which is already amazing. But what happened is that they increased it more than 1,000,000-fold, because it is a new type of innovation. And this is why the types of planning, the types of control, the types of execution, and the types of feedback that we need must be based on not only quality data, but quality that is itself increasing. You know, sometimes quality is the measure
Yes.
of not very good data, but it is already reliably not good. Well, we have to be able to execute product and process and business model innovation on our ability to close this high feedback loop, and that it can only be done with high quality data.
Very interesting. And on that terms, we can see like Elon Musk company, SpaceX, how the power of AI very useful like for every single things. And you mentioned like the change in milliseconds, and this is how we can see. If you want to elaborate more on that, Dr.
I'm only an external observer of what various companies do at the forefront, like Tesla and SpaceX and others. X.AI, which was recently in the news for their ability to deploy a cluster of NVIDIA servers for their data center in record time. And it is definitely the case that in each of these operations, acquiring and using data at high reliability, at high speed, is a key component for their success.
How can high quality data be leveraged by predict market trends and sustain business growth over time?
So I would like to offer 2-3 different readings of this, the way that I interpret your question, also following on the previous remarks.
Yes.
It is always useful to ask ourselves, what are we measuring, why and how? Starting from that question. As an example, there could be a smart city wanting to understand pedestrian traffic. And a very simple way to address that could be putting cameras in the intersections and with image recognition say, okay, these are the people passing at the intersection. And it would open immediately up a can of worms of privacy considerations, what is happening with the data, who is handling the data, who has access to the data. But instead of going with traditional cameras, today we have technology that can use interference of Wi-Fi signals as they are bouncing off from people who are walking around, and that is inherently incapable of identifying personal features. So just by using a different technology, a lot of issues are eliminated, everything is streamlined, maybe becomes even more scalable, and it can be deployed faster in a more sustainable, trust leveraging manner. As long as the information is also well shared, not only inside, but also with every stakeholder, the regulators, the public, and so on. Then the question also arises, okay, if technology is such a defining factor, what are the sources of data? What are potentially new sources of data that can be used? And for a long time now, almost 20 years, we have become accustomed to the fact that we need humans to efficiently deploy sensors around the world, because these sensors are our smartphones.
Yeah.
They are the best sources of data with dozens of different types of sources that we can leverage. Their location, the way they are used, the applications, such a rich source of data. However, we are only 8 billion people on the planet. We cannot sell more than 8 billion, or we cannot have more than 8 billion smartphones on the planet. So one of the unexpected consequences of autonomous vehicles is going to be that, yes, at the beginning we will think, oh, of course, cars without a driver. And it is exactly like horseless carriages. At the beginning, they looked exactly like the ones with a horse, just without a horse, and our self-driving cars will look exactly like cars. But very soon we will realize, oh, it's 100 pounds, or 200 in my case, of human that is not needed in the car. Well, maybe the shape of the self-driving vehicle can be very different. And we will have an explosion of form factors, from very big to very small. And maybe in 10 years' time, a conference like this will be full with self-driving things, autonomous things of all kinds, of all form factors, supporting completely novel use cases of data. And the last remark that I want to make as a consequence of this, not only of why we measure and how and what we measure and the unexpected sources of data, is that this imagination drives innovation. The reason why we have this enormous interest in, for example, robotics research, in particular humanoid robots, is because of the unquenchable thirst of AI applications for new kinds of data.
Yeah.
And yes, the traditional sources of human-generated data are relatively limited. So we need to generate orders of magnitude new data, which we are in the process of doing, thanks to the autonomous platforms that, interacting with and interfacing with the physical world, are able to generate an unbounded set of valuable data that we will then leverage and use in our applications. And this is what I would like to offer, that too many people see the economy as a zero-sum game and competition as a win-lose proposition. But the way I see it is that technology, the economy, and the way human societies work together is a positive-sum game. Mm-hmm. The more technology, the more collaboration, the more all of us together can advance.
Very well said. And I really like the term you mentioned, and I remember another one in the same way. It says always like innovations comes after regulations. And you know, like the entrepreneurs drive by innovations. So there is like another side of slowing the innovations when we add more standards, sometimes regulations and that. If you want to elaborate more on that, Dr. David.
So the way I would put it is a question rather than an answer.
Yeah.
And I think it is very important for standards bodies and for regulators to ask themselves, when is the right time to standardize and to regulate?
Yeah.
Because too late, and maybe the playing field is monopolized by a single player or a small set of players, rather than giving rise to healthy competition among a multiplicity of players. Too late, and maybe some unintended consequences play out in the market in other ways that a regulator's responsibility is to prevent. However, too soon, and it could very well be that the regulation and the standardization that has been put in place is only looking at the early iterations of that particular technology, with new and novel ways of using it and deploying it that the regulator cannot take into consideration yet. So it is a delicate balance and a very, very important responsibility. Without pretending to be able to offer a solution, I think that a smart approach is to incorporate a sunset clause in every possible regulation and standard if possible, so that when a certain limit in time is reached, it must be re-evaluated with an equal effort as it went into its design initially, in order to establish if it is still applicable or it must be redesigned from scratch. And if that effort is not invested, then very simply the regulation expires.
I agree.
And it is back to radical innovation again. Or the standards body or the regulator can assess a new update with the various stakeholders collaborating, knowing that the technology that evolved in the meantime can thrive with the help of the new standard.
Very, very insightful thoughts. Thank you so much for sharing that. What are the data quality issues they have encountered, or like you have encountered, and of course, how you address them to drive innovation?
I love your question because you mentioned exactly the key component, which is the human component, right? Building, motivating, retaining, growing teams is a beautiful, complex challenge. And it is fascinating to see how a novel generation of tools is starting to help with that as well. Better and better ways not only to recruit and to interview, but also starting to quantify things that were intangible before, like the evolution and the support of a positive company culture. How do you measure the feeling of your team, the buzz? How are the meetings? Are they productive? What is the emotional fingerprint of the interactions of people? And all of this is becoming, you can start to capture it and to envision a new kind of enterprise where the ever more sophisticated automation and the forthcoming, literally around the corner availability of AI agents on one side is complemented by human operators, powerful members of your team that are empowered and feel enfranchised to speak up, to experiment, to be proud of the tests that they execute, knowing that a lot of them will fail, and knowing that the company culture allows it and embraces this kind of iterative discovery and innovation. So designing and deploying tools that are like the ghost car for a super performing organization, and you know how to measure yourself against the best possible performance as you are in the driver's seat and try to excel in what you do. This is a novel opportunity that innovative organizations will embrace at the fullest.
Will high quality data become the main competitive advantages for businesses in the next decade?
Yes, absolutely. Without it, people won't be even able to start. They will look back and say, how could people innovate? How could people build an enterprise without what we have available today? And that will be the natural way.
Should data quality be regulated by strict global standards?
If you want a single word, then the answer is no.
Okay.
But if I am allowed to give you a sentence, Let's take, for example, the issue of AI models that are biased. Do we really believe that a single AI model can work for the entire world? Or are we ready to acknowledge that multiple points of view require different approaches?
Of course.
And as a consequence, different data sets that inform and allow training of different kinds of AI. And I think that is actually a richer and more resilient approach than believing that a monoculture should be instead dominating.